teacher is speaking, what's the expectation? The students are listening. Thank you so much. Okay. I understand that sometimes you may be using your laptop and sometimes you may not be looking directly at me, and that is okay. All right. You are more than welcome to use your laptop for translating. All right. So please know that that is okay. If I am going too fast or there's something you do not understand, what do?
You ask.
Yeah, raise your hand and ask, right? Okay. We've had a minute now to look at this image, this picture. What does this picture remind you of, Chloe?
Iceberg.
It's an iceberg, okay? Iceberg. Let me write that word down. It's an iceberg. Ice. Okay, iceberg. So what is interesting about an iceberg? Let me have some, yes.
It's an iceberg model, and where you can picture something or write something that you want to do, as it could be an event you're planning or a problem. Right? And most real example is your social studies.
Okay. Where else have we used it besides social studies? Okay. So, what do we call this in English terms? What do we call a picture that represents something that's not what the picture is? What do we call that? Do you remember the literary term? Begins with an M.
Metaphor.
Metaphor. Yes. Metaphor. So this is a visual presentation of a metaphor. Good job. All right. First, before we see what we're doing today, I want to see how you are feeling.
Number 5.
How are you feeling today? Are you feeling like, hey, I got this? Or are you feeling sad? Or are you feeling, I don't know, I'm kind of
No, I think that's.
Or are you feeling 9? Like,
I think that's.
so put up the number of fingers after you think about it for a second. Doing the best I can do. I'm going to get through this, right? To be resilient, right? In the face of adversity of these assessments. So, you may have seen this picture in what class?
Social studies.
In social studies. Did you all remember a slide that was to help you to prepare for your assessment? Chloe, do you want to tell me a little bit?
So I think like I saw like a little glimpse. Like he was one of the captain, like the general, I think.
Okay.
And
Which army do you think? Looking
Germany.
No. British.
Oh, it's British. He
Yeah.
Like German.
No, he's in the British military.
No, he's like you can see on the badge here.
Yeah. Tree, right? He always wanted to do that. So while he was recovering from shell shock, right? So he was like, right? He couldn't.
He got into poetry.
He got into poetry. Do you think there might be a relationship
Yes, he
between adversity and resilience? Yes. What was the connection between the adversity of war? What was the bad thing that happened to him? The shell shock, right? And how did he show his resilience?
Poetry. By writing poetry.
By writing the poetry. You all are so awesome. Look with your eyes at the images of the video, okay? And listen to the voice. What type of emotion do you hear when you listen to this poem? What pictures do you see? What are the visual images, right? How does it make you feel when you see this and hear this? All right, so what are you going to be doing while we're watching this?
Looking with your eyes and listening with your ears.
Absolutely. Okay? Don't worry if you do not understand the words right now. That's okay. We just watched and listen to the poetry. How did the narrator, the person who's talking, how did it sound?
Really sad.
They almost sounded like he was in the war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see now. Go where? Okay.
So I'm going to pass out the poems right now in the various languages.
I would like it in English.
The reason why I'm giving you both is because you need to practice reading in your language as much as possible as well. Okay, you want your Korean and your English. We told your parents as well at the parent conference. We want both of those skills to improve. Okay, so, alright. So, let's think about the word exposure. Can you think about what that word means?
When you're exposed.
Yes, it's the nature of being exposed. What is exposed? You can look it up in your computer if you want to open up your laptops. Yes.
So,
Hamza.
as if you say exposed to war, they do the war as well.
So what are they exposed to in the video? What are they exposed? What are they out in the open experiencing? Let me get this table here. Yeah. Come, it's what you saw in the picture. Shall we go back to the picture? What's this? What are those little white dots? Snow. So do you think it was hot like in the Manila?
No.
No, it was, so they were exposed to freezing temperatures. What else were they exposed to? Yes,
Night duty.
duties, they had to do duties, but what other things that were adversities? Hunger, they were exposed to having no food. Hunger, what else? What were some, yes? Boredom. Boredom. How come you know they were bored? From the poem, was there a way in the poem you know who was bored? Oh, Mr. Beasley told you. But there's a repeated sentence throughout the poem. It's a literary device that we'll learn more about. What is it?
But nothing happened.
But nothing happens. So they're exposed to, they're seeing all the flashing going on, they're seeing all the snow coming down, they're waiting for them to have to attack or to be attacked, right? It's freezing cold. They're thinking about back home, and they're exposed to all of this elements and all these bad things, the lice, the rats, all of that, they are exposed to, right? And this poem, there's something even deeper than that, but it would take a little bit more understanding of the language. But he's exposing to the reader of the poem what about war?
Like how it was.
How it was. He was like, is it worth it? You know, like, you guys, I thought this was a good thing. This is not a bad thing. And to find out more about this guy, he actually ended up, dying in the war. He actually was killed. I know, a week before the war was over.
What? No way. That's not fair.
A week before the war is over. Oh, and his poetry was not published until after he died. So no one even had really seen his poems. They were published after he
I
died.
think they only published it after because I feel like maybe they needed more soldiers right before the war ended, and they didn't know that it was gonna end. So
Right.
they were afraid that maybe like if somebody would have published that and people would have read it, like other people wouldn't join
Right,
the army.
exactly. Because this would have exposed, it would have let everyone see and everybody
the true
know
colors
the
of war.
truth about war and how horrible it was. This wasn't a great adventure, okay? This was something very. can you answer this question for me? Can poetry relate to adversity and resilience? Yes. Does someone want to tell me how? Thumbs up.
So, first it could be about adversity or problem. As one example is Black Lives Matter. So, in many poets that are Black women that write poems, they show adversity of their problems. And as we did in English before, we did like hatelessness and.
I love it. Did everybody hear what Hamza had to say? Basically, Hamza gave a real world example. So not just World War I, but he gave a real world example of the poetry like Still I Rise and The Hill We Climb that we heard and listened to in English class about African Americans, Black Americans and their struggle and the poetry that has been written about their adversity and how it's helped them to be resilient, to stand up, to be proud, right? It talks about the issues, but it also helps them to be proud and to carry on, to continue, even though life can be very hard. Thank you, class. You all are awesome. Okay, now it's time for our project for the day. You will need your laptop. Please open up your laptops. And you will need Google Classroom. You will find the assignment, Figurative Language Glossary. We are going to use this resource. It's a bilingual glossary. All right? When you complete your glossary, you can use images, you can use translations. That's the whole idea, is to make this glossary work for you, okay? So let's help you find the assignment. Do is I want to do an I do, we do, you do, okay? That's what I'd like to do right now. So let us okay, so this is a line, 2, 3, 4 lines. Okay, so what is a group of lines? Benjamin. Stanza. Yeah. One thing that we notice in this sentence here, worried by silence, sentries, whisper, curious, nervous. So is there a sound?
They all end with.
Yeah, there's a lot of so what do you think of when you hear snakes? Okay, that wasn't what I was going for. Think about exposure. Wind, right? Air, wind. So the air, the wind, that kind of is what that kind of is a symbol of, right? How about our brains ache? Have you ever been so cold that your brain aches?
When you like drink such a cold water and then
Yes, like a brain freeze, right? So that's how they felt being out exposed to the snow,
For like
right?
hours a day.
And do you have a favorite line in this? Just look at this stanza. Okay, this is a stanza. What's your favorite line in this?
Our brain aches.
Yeah, our brain aches. What else, Chloe?
I also like
Yes, wearied. Wearied means but they stay awake. So they're really tired. They have to stay awake. So can you imagine being so tired that you're about to fall out, but you have to stay awake and you're on adrenaline, right? You're like ready for action, but nothing happens. go to the next one. Woo-doo-doo. Okay, so think, pair, share, that just means take a moment, what I just discussed, take a moment and talk to someone next to you or close by about what you saw, what you felt, what were some of the words that were in the poem. You can use your copies of the poem to talk about it. Go and figure out what we know. Let's try this, everybody.
Wait,
Together. All right. Yes, it's like a Kahoot. I don't know if you all have quizzes in your laptop. Try to get in there.
It's Kahoot, yes.
It's like a Kahoot, but it's quizzes. Q-U-I-Z.
Oh.
It's
I-Z-Z.
It's a less cool version of Kahoot.
Let's go version. Okay, so keep on. It's not fun. That song says it's not fun.
It's like diamond.
You can translate, I think. Yeah, try. I continue play.
This game is asking you to draw a circle.
I have to go to PE.
Yeah. So everybody, thank you so much for participating.
No.
We are going to end the game now, but you can play at home.
Toss a
You can make these into flashcards.